President-elect Trump's victory clears a way for him to deliver on several campaign promises, one of which is dismantling President Joe Biden's marquee climate policies. And CBS News national environmental correspondent David Schechter joins us now. David, let's go ahead and start with Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. That's considered the most significant climate action in U.S. history. What has the president-elect said about that?
Well, President-elect Trump has called that actually the green new scam, the IRA. So he's not been in favor of it. And there's a lot of provisions in there. One of the provisions that a lot of people have been talking about is this $7,500 credit to buy an electric vehicle. That really makes it affordable for a lot of families to get an electric car. There is some concern that perhaps he would slash that subsidy because he's been so anti-electric vehicles. But what's interesting right now is that Elon Musk has become obviously a very close advisor to the president, as you just heard a moment ago. And his business is electric cars. He's a big proponent of fighting climate change and tackling all those problems. So he obviously now has the ear of the president. People are wondering if that will soften the president-elect's view on climate change and some of these IRA provisions.
Well, let's dig a little bit deeper into this, because at least $400 billion were allocated for America's transition to renewable energy. Many of the projects, like electric car factories, are actually located in red states. Do we expect any of those projects to be in jeopardy? Might it depend on the color that they came in on Tuesday night?
Well, I think you hit on a really interesting point there, that these projects, these Congress people in these sometimes in very conservative red districts, have been the beneficiaries of some billions of dollars, large projects, large construction projects, large factories. There's an increase in the tax base. There's new jobs. And so now you're seeing, actually, a group of them wrote a letter to Speaker Johnson saying, if we return to power, please don't gut the IRA or these provisions that are working so well in our community. So whereas President-elect Trump has said he doesn't like the IRA and would like to make it go away or minimize it in some way, he's going to see, I think, some pushback from these people, these elected officials in his party, who now seem to really like some of these provisions.
Well, look, we actually have a case study, because President-elect Trump had a first term. And during that, he rolled back over 100 major environmental rules, including Obama-era climate regulations. He withdrew from the Paris Climate Agreement that our viewers will remember committed 195 countries to reducing fossil fuel emissions. What should we expect this time? Well, most people feel pretty certain that President-elect Trump will again withdraw from the Paris Agreement. And there's a window to do that, and it doesn't always take effect immediately. There's some lag time on that. But most people believe that that's something that he will do. And the issue with that is it creates sort of a vacuum of leadership, because the United States for the last 4 years has been a primary voice in the world on negotiating these climate agreements, and the U.S. essentially would not be at that table and would vacate that to other nations, presumably large countries like China, who have a big stake in what's going on. We do know that he's very interested in drilling and leasing more drill sites on federal land, so we could expect to see that. But many of these things that could possibly change will certainly face hurdles and lawsuits, which would slow some of these things down. And all of this comes at a moment when we have just learned that this year is likely the hottest year in the history of the planet, and that is driven by the emissions that come from our cars and our factories and our power plants. So really like a very critical moment here we're facing. All right, David Schechter, thank you.